once was captive by the enemy. He had me thinking I was out of reach. Oh Jesus, mercy shut his mouth. I once was crippled by the weight of shame, embarrassed, I couldn't even show my face. Oh Jesus, then I heard you speak. Your love, He comes with no conditions. You give us your heart. My hope is in the blood of Jesus. I know who I am because of who you are. I hear you calling. I hear you calling me beyond my sin. You tell me that grace is taking care of it. Oh Jesus, you're my victory. Oh Jesus, you're my victory. Your love, it comes with no condition. You give us your heart. My hope is in the blood of Jesus. I know who I am because of who you are. I know who I am. We serve a king. I serve a king. God intentions. God, you will never turn your back on me. How could a wretch come your treasure? The love of God has changed my destiny. I serve a king with good intentions. God, you will never turn your back on me. How could a wretch come your treasure? The love of God has changed my destiny. Is that your testimony today? Your love, it comes with no conditions. Yes, you give us your hope. Hope. It's in the blood. I know who we are. I know who I am because of who you are. I know who I am because of who you are. I know who I am. I know who I am. Your love, it comes with no condition. You give us your heart. My hope is in the blood of Jesus. I know who I am because of who you are.
every change of our life, He is still good and He is still there and He is always present. He is our great Redeemer. Worship with Him.
In every season, in every change, you are near. In every sorrow, you are my strength, you are near. A peace in the storm, your voice I will follow. In weakness I rise, remembering you hold my word. I'm holding on to hope, I'm holding on to grace, I'm fully letting go, I surrender to your ways. The anchor for my soul, Father, you will never change. I love you, I love you.
I love these words.
Aren't you thankful for it today? Our anchor, our peace in the middle of a storm. Serve a God that comes with no conditions. He loves us unconditionally. Gives us his whole heart. It's so good, so good. I was reading earlier this week, and we've been talking a lot today about just worry. Like, what's the point of worrying? Because I don't worry at all. I'm just not that type of person, just by nature. And my wife's like, why are you not worried? I'm like, what's the point? Just put me in a bad mood, you know? But why do we worry? The Bible says in Ephesians, it talks about from his glorious unlimited resources. He has unlimited resources. And if we call ourselves his children and he dwells within us by the Holy Spirit, why are we worried? I'll tell you why. Because flesh worries. That's not the Spirit. The flesh of us worries. So can we just take worry captive today, church? Can we do that? Can we take it captive and say, I'm not going to worry anymore because I trust my Father. Trust. That's one thing that I heard spoke over me the other day when I was reading and praying. It was just trust, so loud, not audibly, but just like the first thing is just, wow, trust. It's like, okay, I hear you. I'll trust you with everything. And we're going into a new song next. It's called Good Grace. And God's grace for us is just, we can't even comprehend it. It's like his love. We can't comprehend it. It's so much. And he just keeps pouring it over us day by day by day by day by day. So faithful he is. And his grace just pours out on us. Grace and mercy. And this song was formulated around John 14:1, where it says, don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Don't let your hearts be troubled. So the next time you run into something and it's just like, oh man, what if this, what if that, what if this? Well, number one, don't say that. What ifs bring in anxiety, and that's not of the Spirit either. Just trust. It's not going to be easy, but trust that he'll take care of it. So I want to teach you a piece of this song, because actually two pieces. One of them you might think like, oh, that's weird, but because it's like a little like chant. It's just your voice, but I'll teach it to you. Don't worry. I'm not going to leave you out on a limb. But the second verse, it declares his name and who he is and where our salvation is found. So it goes like this. Jesus, our redemption, our salvation is in his blood. Jesus, light of heaven, friend forever, his kingdom come. Amen. Oh man. And so when we get to that part, I'll let you know it's coming. I want you just to scream it. A joyful noise. We're not supposed to be the only one singing in this place, right? Our job is to point you towards him, not to show you how well we can sing. So we're a body. Let's sing together today, church. Let's worship our Father together and shout his name as one body. All right? And the other part is this thing. It just goes, whoa, 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 whoa. You got it? All right, pray with me. Jesus, we declare your name today, King of Kings. Father, thank you so much for your grace as you shower it down upon us, Father. Let us have the faith to trust and not worry as we take the spirit of worry captive today in your name. We love you. We praise you. Amen. Come together, strangers, neighbors, blood is one. Children, generations of every nation, Don't let your heart be in trouble. Hold your head up, I don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. Take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Every voice. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Shout his name. Jesus, our redemption, our salvation is in his blood. Jesus, light of heaven, friend forever, his kingdom come. So don't let your heart trouble. Hold your head up, I don't fear evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. He's madly in love with you. Take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Whoa. reign forever. His kingdom come.
Woo! Come on, let me hear from you a little bit. Y'all out there? Let me tell you, y'all sound good. Y'all sound real good in that last song, all right? Hey, do me a favor. Just greet somebody around you real quick, and then you can have a seat. All right. So, hey, you guys, welcome to The Rock today. Everybody doing good? Doing good? It's always good to see the 12 o'clock crowd. I'm glad that you guys are with us. I hope you're enjoying yourself, and I hope you did enjoy that last song we did. I know just being up front here, like I could hear y'all, all right? Like it was good. It was good. I do want just to do a thing because I know we have people joining us online right now. We have people at our Conway Coffee Bar, and we have people that will be watching on demand later. So wherever you are from, we are glad that you are with us. Would you guys give it up for those of them who are joining our other campuses? So if you're new with us, just so you know, we are one church that meets in multiple locations. We meet here in Conway, and then we have about 6 other places that we meet, and also really kind of around the world. I heard we had a group of about 4 families in Salt Lake City, Utah today watching and joining in with us during the last hour. So pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Or maybe this hour. Maybe it was this hour. So if you're watching right now from Salt Lake, glad you guys are with us and hope you have a great time. So anyway, we're in this series that we're calling Save the Date. And with this series, it's been a series that is a lot about being single, about dating, about being engaged, and about being married. And we've looked at it through the life of a lady in the Bible named Ruth. And Ruth was a widow. She was a young widow. We don't know how young, obviously old enough to get married, and she was an adult, but she was a widow. And we kind of follow her story as we see her going from being a widow, from dating, to being engaged, to being married. That's where we've been going. And today, we're really going to talk about this idea of dating. Now, I don't know for those of you who are single in the crowd, whether you're a teenager type single, a young adult single, maybe you're single because you're divorced or widowed. I don't know if you're willing to admit this or not, but would you say that dating is difficult? Yeah, dating is difficult, right? And it's different today than it was like when I was dating when I was single. I've been married for 28 years now, so I haven't had to have that kind of dating in a long time, and it's just different today. Like you high schoolers, you have to do these things called promposals, right? Like you have to come up with some elaborate way to invite somebody to prom, which I just think is crazy because you're constantly trying to figure out a way to one-up your buddy who did it on Facebook or put it on Instagram and stuff like that. Now, my son Clay, like he did this in high school. And he went after this girl who was like homecoming queen. Like he was swinging for the fences. And he went to her house with big chalk art and wrote, "Will you go to prom with me?" on her driveway. She said no. Poor thing. But he's fun to make fun of because of it, okay? So when you see Clay, you can bring that up. But like it's tough. It's just tough. And like those of you getting engaged these days, same thing. You got to come up with some elaborate thing to ask somebody to marry. It used to be just get down on your knee and say, "Will you marry me?" Today, you got to have, a photographer. You got to have the right place, the right time. You got to make sure everything is right. It's difficult to date and to be engaged and stuff like that today. So I want to do my best just to help you by giving some advice from Scripture. And let me just go ahead and say this. All through the series, it has been one of those messages that really apply whether you're single or dating or married, wouldn't matter. Today, for the next 15 minutes, I'm really just going to talk to those of you who are single. So if you're single here, it is really geared for you, all right? Now, I know if you're married, hold on, I'm going to get to it. If you're a parent and you have somebody with you here who is single, maybe it's your child, something like that, well, you're just going to want to say, "Preach." Okay? I know that's what you're going to want to say because I'm going to be another voice to help you out, all right? But then after about 10, 15 minutes of this, I'm going to kind of turn the corner, and I'm really going to be pointing us towards Jesus because there's something in the life of Boaz that we see that applies so much to what Jesus did for us. So I want you to catch both angles of this message. And it starts with just this idea of dating. And when we look at Ruth chapter 3, we're going to see that there's kind of three components of dating that we can learn from. One is that we need to listen to godly advice. The other is you need to let people know of your intentions. And the last one is that you need to do what is right. All right? So I want to start by listening to godly advice. Now, let me catch you up in the story because maybe you haven't been here the last couple of weeks. The story of Ruth goes like this, that there was this lady named Naomi that she left Bethlehem and went to Moab. She went there with her husband and her two sons. Well, her two sons ended up marrying these women from Moab. One of them was named Ruth. And while Ruth was living in Moab with Naomi, both Naomi's husband died and Ruth's husband died, and the other son died as well. So all the men in the family died. We learned about that in week 1. Last week, we saw that Naomi went back to Bethlehem, and her daughter-in-law, Ruth, went with her. And while she was there, we learned a little bit about the type of person you should look for or the type of person you should long to be if you're single or dating or married. Doesn't matter. The type of person you should be. That was Ruth 2. And now we're in Ruth 3, and when we look at Ruth 3, the very first thing we see is some advice that her mother-in-law, Naomi, has given her. And that's the reason I want to say it this way, that as if you want to date somebody or if you hope to date at some point, then the first thing I want you to do is listen to godly advice. And that's where it starts. In Ruth chapter 3, it says this. One day, Naomi said to Ruth, "My daughter, it's time that I found a permanent home for you so that you will be provided for. Boaz is a close relative of ours. He's been very kind by letting you gather grain with his young women." She continues on. "Tonight, he will be winnowing barley at the threshing floor. Now do as I tell you. Take a bath and put on some perfume and dress in your nicest clothes." All right? So she's basically looking at her and saying, I want to give you some godly advice. There's a dude named Boaz. He's a close relative, so I want you to go to him. I want you to kind of doll up a little bit, like get looking nice. Let me keep going. Then go to the threshing floor, but don't let Boaz see you until he has finished eating and drinking. So make sure he's had something to drink. Be sure to notice where he lies down, then go and uncover his feet and lie down there, and he will tell you what to do. Doesn't sound like good advice, does it? Some of you parents are saying, stop preaching, okay? I get it. Because you're saying this doesn't make sense. I want you to really see what Naomi said to Ruth. This is what Naomi said to Ruth. She said, get dolled up, let him have some drinks, go to him when he's going to bed, and do what he tells you. This doesn't look like godly advice, does it? Like there's no way I would ever tell my daughter this advice. There's no way I'd give my daughter this advice. There's no way I would give my sons this advice. There's no way I'd give any of you this advice. So why do I call this godly advice? Because you're looking at it, you're going, that doesn't make sense. I know some of you married men are saying, yeah, honey, listen to him right now, okay? That's what some of you married men are saying to your wives. But we're talking about dating right now. We ain't talking about marriage, so let's go back to dating. We would never say that. I would never say that. So why? Why is this what Naomi's saying to Ruth? Well, here's why. You got to take it to the context, all right? Let me go back 3,100 years ago. It's approximately 3,100 years ago is when this story would have been unfolding. And 3,100 years ago, things were a lot different than they are today. The first thing that was different was the rights of a woman, all right? And again, it's different than today. We're talking about 3,100 years ago. But 3,100 years ago, a woman that her rights were bound to her man. That the property was the man's, the money was the man's, and that if a woman lost her husband and didn't have a son, then she would have no property, she would have no money because she didn't have a male in her life, right? So that's one thing that is different. And what Naomi understands is that Boaz is a kinsman redeemer. He is the one that could provide for Ruth. Now, kinsman redeemer, again, it's not a phrase we use at all today. But you need to understand it to understand the story. That a kinsman redeemer, what that meant was there was a male who knew it was their job to provide for an extended family member. Meaning, if you had a family member who had died, and so now there's a female that she doesn't have a husband or doesn't have a son, then the kinsman redeemer's job is to marry this girl and to provide a son for her so that her family line can continue, so that she can have property and she can have money. Right? Put it in today's world. Again, it's not in today's world, but in my world, if you were to think of it this way. If I had married Krista and I had died without first having a son, then it would have been my older brother Jack's job to take care of of Krista, my wife, all right? So that's what was happening 3,100 years ago. So Naomi is looking at Ruth saying, Ruth, Boaz is your kinsman redeemer. So I want you to go to him. And I want you to first get dolled up a little bit, because so far, if you remember Ruth chapter 2, the only way Boaz has seen her is as a young lady working in the field. So, sweat on her brow, dirt under her fingernails. That's the only way he's ever seen her. So Naomi is saying, no, go ahead and get dressed up a little bit. And then go to him, because tonight they're going to be celebrating the harvest. The harvest is done. They're going to celebrate it. They're going to eat. They're going to drink. They're going to finish the night. And then tomorrow they're going to go someplace else to start harvesting some other grain. So tonight is the night you got to go to him. But don't go to him while he's with people. Because if you go to him while he's with people, that might be embarrassing, because he's not expecting you to come and you're going to put him on the spot in front of others. So wait till he goes to bed and lie down at his feet and take the position of a servant. That's what I want you to do. So if you put it in context, although it looks so weird and so like ungodly, what it actually is a very godly way for Ruth to make her intentions known, which I'll get to those in a second. But you need to see this. That Boaz was older than Ruth, all right? That Boaz would have never made the first move because of their difference in age. Now, Ruth was an adult, but there was still a gap in their ages, so Boaz would have never made the first move. So Naomi is saying, Ruth, you have to make the move. You have to let him know of your intentions. She was given her godly advice. And let me just say, first thing, for those of you who are single and you hope to date, listen to godly advice. There are people in your life who want to point you in the right direction. There are people in your life that do actually know you. And they know if you start dating somebody that is not a good mix, that they might come alongside and say, hey, that's not the right person, all right? And too many times we don't want to listen to people when they're giving us godly advice, when their advice isn't what we want. See, we want godly advice when we like what you're saying, but we don't like godly advice when you're telling me something that I don't believe in or something that I want to agree in. And the problem is too many times we'll start to like somebody, we'll start to want to be involved with somebody, so our heart will lean in, and when your heart leans in and you haven't taken the advice yet, then what happens is the heart wins out over the head, because the heart wants what the heart wants. So make sure you put people in your life who will give you godly advice, and then listen to them. I hope that maybe you've got a mom or a dad or a grandma or a grandpa who can give you that godly advice. I hope that you're serving on a team or attending a small group here at The Rock. We talk all the time about getting a coach in your life, because that coach can give you some godly advice in these situations. For all those who are involved in our student ministry. And that can mean you're serving in Kids Rock. That can mean that you're attending one of the house groups, or you're hanging out in our middle school groups. Wherever you might be doing, it means that we've made sure that we get a coach in your life. And that coach is there so that they can give you godly advice. So if you're a teenager and you serve on a team and you're going through something, make sure you talk to that person. Talk to that leader and say, hey, what do you think about this, if you don't have somebody else? Same thing with our recovery ministry, Regen. It's all built around this idea of getting a coach in your life so that you can receive godly advice when you need it, all right? So first and foremost, when it comes to dating, listen to godly advice. Secondly, I would say this. let them know of your intentions. When you start to date, let somebody know of the intentions that you have, right? Now, I don't mean that the first time you have a conversation with somebody, I don't mean first time you have a conversation, say, all right, sit down for a second because we got to talk through some things. Here's what I expect the next 50 years of my life to look like, okay? You start doing all that, they're going to run for the hills, all right? But I would say early on, you need to let them know what your intentions are. That's what we see in Ruth's story. Let me keep reading. It says this. After Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he lay down at the far end of the pile of grain and went to sleep. Then Ruth came quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. Around midnight, Boaz suddenly woke up and turned over. He was surprised to find a woman lying at his feet. Yeah, okay. Of course he was surprised. He's like, whoa, who are you? He asked. I am your servant, Ruth, she replied. Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer. That in this little bit of the story, we see two intentions that she makes known right away. The first intention is one of physical intimacy. And here's what I mean. She could have showed up and snuggled in, if you know what I mean, but that's not what she did. She showed up and she laid down at his feet. That she took the form of a servant. That she laid down at his feet because she's saying, I'm not coming here for physical intimacy. I'm coming here because I need to make some intentions known. And that we see by where she laid down. And that's the first intention. I would challenge you, if you are a person that is going to be dating, to let the person you're dating know your physical intimacy intentions. Too many times we get into dating relationships, you never have the conversation about physical intimacy, and then you find yourself liking the person, maybe loving the person, and you draw in and you start to get intimate, and now all of a sudden you start approaching a line that maybe you didn't plan on crossing, but you're engaged in this activity, and you're like, well, I need to say no, but I don't want to say no. My heart doesn't want to say no, so what do I do? So maybe you cross over that line. Let me tell you, it's a whole lot easier to say no before you ever put yourself in that intimate situation. Now, I want to say this because I don't want you to hear the wrong thing. It's okay to say no anytime. It is always appropriate to say no. Always. But it's easier if you make a decision before you're ever in an intimate situation and you have told that person, this is where my line in the sand is. This is what that I want in my life when it comes to physical intimacy inside of a dating relationship. And they might say, well, I want my line here. And you might say, well, I don't want to go to that line. This is my line. And they'll say, no, you need to get to my line. And you say, no, you need to get out. Okay? That's what you need to say. Because if your lines are different, then there's only one way that line moves. Okay? She let her physical intimacy intentions to be known. She also gave a spiritual intention. See the last part of the verse? She said this, spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer. Now in that, she's very blatantly saying, I want you to marry me. I want you to be my husband. That I'm laying down at your feet because I'm wanting to be your wife. That's what she is saying. But she's saying it from a spiritual standpoint. Because remember, back then to the Jewish people, their law, not like the law of the land, but their faith-based law was that you would redeem a person in that situation. So she's bringing her faith up on the front end to Boaz. And I want to say this, if you're entering into a dating relationship, bring your faith up at the front end of the relationship. See, too many times we bring it up at the back end. Too many times that we don't talk about faith on a deep enough level. And then what you do is you find yourself so far along in your relationship and you think, well, we're close enough when it comes to our faith beliefs. No, you need to find alignment at the beginning because it matters. You need to find that alignment at the beginning because it matters. And unfortunately, too many times we don't take time to talk about our faith. And when we don't talk about our faith when it really does matter, then we're too far past this situation, and it brings in some disunity into our relationships. This is what I mean by that. If you think about it, your faith practice should affect every area of your life. It should affect every area of your life. Your faith practice should. Your faith practice will affect what you decide to do physically on an intimate level before you get married. Your faith practice will affect how you raise kids. Your faith practice will affect how you see marriage. Your faith practice will affect how you manage your finances. Your faith practice will affect what you do in your spare time or what you do in your hobbies or where church is involved in your life. Your faith practice will affect all of those things. So if you don't have those discussions on the front end, you might find yourself heading towards marriage, yet you find yourself a little disunified in your faith. All right? Now, once you're in marriage, can you still make it work? You can, but it's more difficult. You've got to work hard to make it work. So have those discussions on the front end so that you can walk them out together throughout dating and engaged in marriage. Third thing, though, it isn't just about making your intentions known. The third thing is it's about doing what is right. Because, see, we see Boaz in this moment. He's surprised by Ruth. And when he's surprised by that, he's like, wow. And then she says that. And then he replies like this. He says, you have honored me today. He said, I'm a much older man. All right? That Boaz would have never made the first move. He was an older man. All right? So he's looking at this young adult. And he's saying, wow, you have honored me because you've come to me when you could have went after a younger man. You could have done that. And then he replies like this. But while it is true that I am one of your family redeemers, there is another man who is more closely related to you than I am. Stay here tonight, and in the morning I will talk to him. If he is willing to redeem you, very well. Let him marry you. But if he is not willing, then as surely as the Lord lives, I will redeem you myself. That what Boaz is saying, he's like, wow, you have honored me, and wow, I would love to make you my wife. I would love to do that, but I can't. See, it would have been real easy for Boaz, even there in the middle of the night, to say, yes, I want you to be my wife. Cuddle up here. Let's go ahead and make it possible. Right? He could have done that. It was inside of his rights at that moment when she was saying that's what she wanted. He could have said, yep, let's do that. But it wasn't right. He could have done it because it was easy, but it wasn't what was right. What he was actually saying is there's actually somebody else in the family line who's closer. Maybe you didn't know that, but there is somebody else who truly is your Redeemer. So I need to go to him because technically you should be his wife, not mine. There's a very good principle that we see here. That in this situation right there, Boaz did what was right, not what was easy. You see it? Because it could have been real easy for him to just sleep with her. It could have been real easy for him to say, yep, let's make this happen. That would have been the easy thing, but he said it's not the right thing because you're not my spouse. And I want us to hear that today. All right? Because I know we live in a time that it's easy to sleep with people. It is, that we live in a time where culturally it is an acceptable thing, all right? I know I'm old-fashioned when I say this, but let me just be old-fashioned for a second. Let me just be a dad for a moment, if you don't mind. God's best for you is to wait until marriage. God's best for you is to sleep with your spouse, not somebody else's spouse. And when you're pre-marriage, what that is honestly somebody else's potential spouse, all right? Because you don't know if you're going to get married yet. They might end up getting married to somebody else. So if you sleep with them beforehand, then you're sleeping with somebody else's spouse. Obviously, in marriage, you're sleeping with somebody else's spouse if you're sleeping with anybody that's not your spouse, all right? So again, I know that sounds old-fashioned, and I know that's not normal, but let me say it with grace, because I know it's not how all of us walk, but let me let you know, I do believe that what we see in this verse and what we see in the rest of God's word is he has his best in mind for you. His best in mind for you. And what his best is to sleep with your spouse. It's not easy, but it's right. It's not easy. I know that. It's not easy for me to even say it, but it's right. And I want you to think of it this way. that it's worth waiting for. It's worth it. See, Boaz went to sleep that night. Ruth went to sleep at his feet because he said, I'll take care of it tomorrow. In the morning, she woke up. She went home to Naomi. Naomi probably receives her when she comes in. It's like, what happened? Is he going to be your kinsman redeemer? How was your night? What's going on? And Ruth says, well, there's actually another guy. There's somebody else who's a closer relative. And I don't know if Naomi didn't know it at the time. I don't know if Naomi was like, oh, I forgot about him. We don't know. We don't know that part of the story. But I love what Naomi says next. She says, be patient. He'll do what's right. Be patient, for he's going to do what's right. And I love that because what Ruth does is she ends up just being patient. She just waits on Boaz. And what we see in Boaz's story next is he goes to the town gate. And this is where we see the similarities between Boaz and Jesus. I want you to catch this because what Boaz does next is he goes to the town gate. And when he gets to the town gate, he calls the elders of the town together, kind of the decision makers. He says, hey, guys, I got to talk to you about something. And then he goes and he finds that other family member. And he finds that family member and he brings that guy to the gate. And he says, hey, do you remember Elimelech and his son Mahlon? You know how they both died? Well, there's some land that needs to be redeemed. And you're the closest relative. Would you like to redeem the land? Would you like to purchase it? And he's like, well, yeah, some land. I'll take some land, right? And then Boaz says, well, just make sure you catch this. There's a lady named Ruth who goes with the land. So if you're going to buy the land, then you also, in essence, are purchasing Ruth, and you need to father a son through her, all right? And immediately the guy's like, whoa, I can't do it then. I can't make that sacrifice. And we'll talk more about sacrifice next week. But what I love is what Boaz does next. He says, so you're not willing to purchase the land, which means you're not willing to redeem Ruth. And he says, no, I can't do it. And then Boaz says, well, I'll do it. I'll do it. And in front of the elders at the town gate, he says, I want to purchase the land right now. And I want to be Ruth's redeemer. I want to be Ruth's deliverer. I want to be Ruth's provider. I'm going to set her free right now. And I'm going to set her up for the rest of her life, the best life possible. He says, I want to purchase right now. And guys, that's exactly what Jesus Christ did for us. It's exactly what Jesus did for us. That just as Boaz went to the gates, Jesus went to the gate. You see, what happened is 2,000 years ago, Jesus knew that we had all sinned. Each and every one of us, myself included, I've sinned. And because of my sin, I'm separated from God. And Jesus said, that's not something I'm willing to let stay. I'm going to figure out a way to bring reconciliation. I'm going to make people's relationship with God right. So Jesus left heaven and he came to earth. And he walked the earth for about 30 years. And around his 30th birthday, he started doing ministry. He started letting people know that they matter to God. He went to everybody. Didn't matter their past. Didn't matter their present. Didn't matter anything going on in their life. And he said, you matter to God. I love you deeply. And I love you so much that no matter what's going on in your life, I am willing to rescue you. Some people didn't like it. Some people didn't like it, so what they ended up doing is they arrested him. And then they put him on trial. And then they beat him. And then they crucified him. And when he was crucified, he died. And when he is dead, they put him in a tomb for 3 days. And do you know where Jesus was for those 3 days? At the gates. That Jesus was at the gates of hell purchasing our freedom. He was buying our redemption. He was buying our salvation. That Jesus said, I'm going to the pits of hell, to the gates of hell, to set people free because I'm going to redeem them. Just as Boaz went to the town gate to set Ruth free, Jesus goes to the gates to set us free. And it wasn't easy. But it was right. It wasn't easy, but it was right. And that's where I want to challenge you today, is come to Jesus because it's what's right. See, he has been patient with us. He has been patient so that he could do what was right. Now he's waiting for us to do what is right. He's waiting for us to turn our lives over to Christ. And let me just say this, salvation is easy for us because he did all the work. Boaz did all the work for Ruth. Jesus does all the work for us. Salvation is easy. It is a free gift of God. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you've done, doesn't matter what you're doing. It's a gift that you can receive today. Surrender, now that's a different story because surrender is difficult. Salvation is easy. Surrender is difficult. But surrender is right. And as we move into this time of response, the challenge is, will you surrender and do what is right? Maybe not what is easy. Like maybe come up and take communion. Pick up that piece of bread, that cup of juice. It represents his body and his blood. Say, Jesus, thank you for doing this for me. I'm surrendering to you. I want to be your servant. Maybe go to the prayer corner and get down on a knee and just spend some time praying and saying, Jesus, like I thank you for saving me, but I know there's this area in my life. You know it. You feel it. You understand it. That you know there's just something going on that you know isn't right. Maybe it's been easy. Maybe it's something in your dating relationship. You're like, this is easy, but I know in my spirit it's not right. Maybe something's going on in your marriage and you're like, well, this is the easy route, but in your spirit you know it's not right. So maybe this morning, just in an act of prayer, say, Jesus, I want to do what's right, not what's easy. Maybe it's taking a step of baptism where you've just been holding off and you're saying, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to get up in front of people. And it just seems like, no, like I love Jesus. That's enough. But you've never taken that step. Do what is right, not what is easy. Or maybe today you're just dealing with something. Maybe it's just something tough. Maybe it's a medical issue. Maybe it's a financial issue. Be patient. He will do what's right. Jesus has proven himself time and time again. He will do what's right. So be patient and wait on him. Maybe it's in your dating relationships. Maybe in your singleness. You're just like, I want this person. I want this guy or I want this gal, whatever it might be. Be patient, for God will do what is right. My prayer is this morning, this afternoon, right now, that we will come to Jesus, which is easy, and then we'll surrender and we'll do what is right. Would you stand with me? I'm going to pray, and then we're going to sing a song. And as we sing this song, I just want to challenge you. Come to the altar. Come and meet Jesus. Because he loves you, and you matter to him. Pray with me. Jesus, I come before you right now. And as I come before you right now, Jesus, I just pray. I pray that we would all just do what is right. That we would see that taking those steps of faith maybe are difficult, but it's right. That surrendering to you is difficult, but it's right. Jesus, thank you for doing what was right, not what was easy, and help us to follow in your footsteps. In your name, amen. Let's spend some time responding. Let's spend some time coming to the altar. Let's spend some time doing what's right, not necessarily what's easy.